Tonight, with 2 months to go until Iowa, Senator Ted Cruz is surging in the polls. Wow! And now coming under attack from his GOP rivals.
Ted Cruz has made America less safe.
Sure he has. He went for the easy political vote.
Senator Ted Cruz is here tonight to respond. And Herman Cain shows up at a Donald Trump rally after being criticized by Jeb Bush.
You have a lot of people in the media and the establishment that are trying to bring down Trump with lies and BS, and it's not going to work.
Mr. Cain will be here tonight. And later, a new documentary calling out global warming alarmists. All of that plus Newt Gingrich will be here with reaction. Hannity starts right here, right now. And welcome to Hannity, and we are just 2 months away from the Iowa caucuses. In 2016, Republican presidential candidate Senator Ted Cruz is now surging in the polls. Now, in the latest Quinnipiac, Iowa poll, Donald Trump is in first place with 25% of the vote. Ted Cruz not far behind with 23%. And in the very important state of New Hampshire, Cruz is now tied with Dr. Ben Carson for third at 10%, with Trump and Marco Rubio now taking the top two spots. And according to the latest Fox News national poll, Ted Cruz is now tied for third. He has 14%. Now, the steady rise in the polls has made Senator Cruz a target for attacks from some of his Republican rivals. Take a look.
Doesn't Marco and Barack Obama share a similar biography?
As do Ted Cruz and others in this race who have no experience in governing.
Is Ted Cruz's position and Rand Paul's position on collecting metadata made America less safe?
Yes. And I said it at the time.
So Ted Cruz has made America less safe?
Sure he has. He went for the easy political vote at a time when, you know, it looked like it was kind of a popular thing to do. With all those dead Parisians, it doesn't look so popular anymore.
I stand strongly on behalf of the ability of this government to gather intelligence on our adversaries and our enemies, especially terrorists, but other nation states. Those keep us safer. And there are Republicans, including Senator Cruz, that have voted to weaken those programs. That's just a part of the record. It's nothing personal.
I think Cruz is going to have to hit me because, you know, he's a nice guy. He's been so supportive. Everything I said, he supported. Every single thing I said. And he's been so supportive, but at some point he's going to have to hit me, right? It's going to be a sad day, but we will hit back, I promise.
All right, here with Reaction 2016, Republican presidential candidate, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Are you planning on getting in a fight with Trump? Is that a preview of coming attractions, pay-per-view? What's going to happen?
You know, we are focused on what we've been doing from day one of this campaign, which is building a conservative army on the grassroots. And what's so encouraging, listen, the reason why people are throwing rocks and we're taking shots from all directions is because the energy and momentum we've got, Sean, is incredible. You know, I just got back from a 3-day barnstorming tour through Iowa. We went to 16 counties in 3 days, had standing room only crowds everywhere we went. And so it's understandable that other candidates are getting nervous about that and are wanting to launch attacks. We're going to keep focused on my positive, optimistic, conservative message. And people are tired of campaign conservatives. They want someone who's got a proven record. I think that's why conservatives are uniting behind our campaign.
All right, let's talk a little bit. You even are now ahead of Hillary Clinton in some head-to-head matchups. That's happening. The media seems very focused on the battle that has now emerged between you and Senator Rubio. You have gone after Senator Rubio on the issue of immigration. You talked about his foreign policy as him being a proponent of military adventurism, that you said he has benefited from Islamic militant groups. What did you mean by that?
Well, you know, if you look at Senator Rubio's record, he's someone who I like personally. He's a friend of mine. He is a very, very charming and effective communicator. But if you look at his policy record, there's a big difference between his record and mine. You started out asking about amnesty. That may be the simplest and clearest record, as you know. Back in 2013, when President Obama and Chuck Schumer joined with establishment Republicans in pushing a massive amnesty plan, Senator Rubio led that fight. He stood right there alongside with Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer. Indeed, it was the Rubio-Schumer amnesty plan, and I made a very different decision. I stood alongside Jeff Sessions and Steve King and fought against amnesty and to secure the border, and we ended up defeating the Rubio-Schumer amnesty plan. Now that's a real policy difference that I think Republican primary voters are quite interested in.
You know, one of the things that comes up, especially when you get close to the caucuses, the primaries, things get more heated. Naturally, I've watched too many of these cycles. Then Republicans talk about the 11th commandment. Tell us where that balance is.
Well, the balance, as you know, throughout this campaign, I have declined to respond when other candidates have attacked me personally, to engage in the food fight. You know, the first couple of debates, there were a lot of just nasty ad hominem insults, and I'm not interested in playing that game. If others insult me, I won't respond in kind. Now, there's a difference between that and a substantive policy disagreement. I do think politics is and should be, the bread and butter of it should be policy differences. And so it is perfectly appropriate to lay out, as I have over and over again, that on the issue of amnesty, a majority of the candidates on that debate stage have publicly supported amnesty, and that I am the only candidate on that debate stage who has never supported amnesty and who led the fight successfully to defeat amnesty when it was before the Congress.
The two big differences are that you're pointing out is on the immigration. He's attacking you on the USA Freedom Act reforms. I want to give you a chance to respond.
Well, sure. You know, Marco, a PAC that is supporting Marco has bought about $200,000 of attack ads in Iowa. And these attack ads are false, and Marco knows they're false. What he's trying to suggest somehow that I'm responsible for the terrorist attack in Paris, and it's silly. And it's the natural thing that a campaign does when they're nervous, when they see conservatives uniting behind our campaign. Now, what I did is I joined with my good friend and strong conservative, Senator Mike Lee. I joined with a ton of conservatives in the House in passing the USA Freedom Act. And what the USA Freedom Act did was two things. Number one, it ended the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata. It ended the federal government having your cell phone information and my cell phone information. And I think we've got to respect the Bill of Rights and the rights of law-abiding citizens. But number two, the USA Freedom Act strengthened the tools to go after actual terrorists, to target the bad guys, to get their cell phones, their emails. That's the way the Bill of Rights works. And you know, Marco knows that, but at the end of the day, the position that he's advocating is he thinks we'd be safer if the federal government seized your phone records and mine. I don't think that's right. And at the end of the day, the intelligence agencies told Congress the USA Freedom Act expanded their ability to target the bad guys. And yet, Marco's,
let me ask you
the
this.
super PAC supporting Marco doesn't want to acknowledge that.
You know, we see what happened in Paris, and the president actually said that those types of attacks only happen in America. Perhaps he forgot what just happened and forgot Charlie Hebdo. But, you know, during a joint press conference with President Holland, he actually said, the president, that this climate change summit will be a rebuke to terrorists. He also said there's no tougher issue that he can think of than climate change. Let me play part of this.
Yep.
Next week, I will be joining President Hollande and world leaders in Paris for the Global Climate Conference. What a powerful rebuke to the terrorists it will be when the world stands as one and shows that we will not be deterred from building a better future for our children.
Don't you think radical Islam and mullahs in Iran getting nuclear weapons and the economy and $20 trillion in debt is a bigger problem than climate change, which keeps changing from global cooling and the ice age coming to the planet blowing up with heat to now just a neutral climate change for everything that they don't like?
Well, Sean, of course it is. And you know, that statement, it's gotten to the point now where President Obama, Saturday Night Live can't even make fun of him anymore because he says the most ridiculous things. This is a president who thinks the SUV in your driveway is a greater threat to this country than radical Islamic terrorism. In fact, he's not even willing to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. And we need a president who will stand up and defeat ISIS, utterly destroy ISIS. And, you know, there was another exchange that just occurred recently where President Obama was telling Erdogan in Turkey, you need to secure your border with Syria. And Erdogan responded, well, why don't you secure your southern border first before you try to lecture me? And I got to say, maybe for once in the history of all time, I agree with Erdogan on that President Obama has allowing an enormous security vulnerability to this country by not securing the southern border. And that's why I've been leading the fight to secure the southern border. And I'll tell you, Sean, if I am elected president, We will secure our borders. We will keep this country safe from terrorists. We will not be allowing in tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees. Our top priority will be the safety and security of American citizens.
Did you hear Marine General Joseph Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, saying we have not contained ISIS? By the way, even Dianne Feinstein said it. The president said they were contained the day before, hours before the Paris attacks. Not only did he say they're not contained, but they're growing. So how could the president be so wrong and Dianne Feinstein and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs saying something totally different?
Because it's out of control political correctness. They don't acknowledge that the problem even exists. I mean, when the president stands up and says the Islamic State isn't Islamic, look, that's just nutty. I mean, that's not even school children can figure that out. They've declared their intention to create an Islamic caliphate and to forcibly convert or murder any infidels that don't adopt their radical Islamism. And because the president won't acknowledge it, as he put it, he doesn't believe in American leadership or America winning. He doesn't have time for that. I got to say, FDR and JFK and Ronald Reagan were spinning in their graves to hear a president say he doesn't believe in American leadership or America winning.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll have more with Senator Ted Cruz right after the break. Also tonight, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, he'll be here to weigh in on the latest shakeups in the 2016 GOP field. Also tonight, Jeb Bush compares Herman Cain's 2012 campaign to Donald Trump's current White House run. Well, Herman Cain will be here to respond. That and more on this busy news night tonight on Hannity.